Hello, welcome everybody. Another wonderful reading tonight between the Word Storytelling Sanctuary and our favorite partners. Not favorite, but amongst our favorite. They're our favorite, don't tell anyone. But Duende is so excited to be here. I'm Vinayaka Prasad, the Executive Director of the Word. We are an organization that fights for equity through publishing and literature. And we are always just stunned by the lineups that Duende District brings to us to get to know authors and works that are really shining in this world. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Angela Maria Spring, who's going to get us started for this evening. Thank you, Angela, for putting this all together for us tonight.
Thank you, Vinayaka. I love you guys so much. So good evening, everybody. Huge thank you to our wonderful friends at The Word. We're so grateful to have the opportunity to partner with you these past 2 years for these phenomenal virtual events, as well as celebrating the inaugural Margins Bookstore Month, which is almost over, but has been amazing. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Again, I'm Angela Maria Spring. I'm the owner of Duende District, and we are a collaborative pop-up bookstore by and for people of color where all are welcome. And currently we have locations in Washington, D.C. and Albuquerque, New Mexico. And kind of the thing I say all the time is the cornerstone of the Duende Project is about the collective, the community, and creation and decolonization of literary spaces by and for people of color. And I am so delighted and honored to welcome these four amazing poets whose writing and mentorship within the Latinx poetry community have been instrumental in guiding so many poets' work, including my own. So tonight we are honoring the publications of Tomás Morin's latest book, Machete, and Ananda Lima's first full-length book, Motherland, which are both truly powerful poetry collections that should be on everyone's shelves, and we will drop links in the chat for you. And here to celebrate alongside Tomás and Ananda, as well as share their own poetry, which I'm so excited about, are Dr. Reyna Leon, who is also, she's got books, she's done amazing, she's been published like crazy. She's also the founding editor of the Acentos Review, which is a wonderful publication. And Roberto Carlos Garcia, also just all the books and published everywhere, amazing poet, and he's also the founder of Get Fresh Books, and we've done events with them in the past as well. So if everybody that he publishes at Get Fresh, they're so amazing. I especially want to thank Ananda for all she has done to make this such an awe-inspiring event. I try to give our authors their choice in how to shape our event, since it's such a special space curated for our communities, and she really ran with it, and I love that so much. So really, I feel like the specialness of this event is all because of Ananda. So huge thank you to her. So we're going to get to hear a short reading from each of the poets, and then they'll be in conversation with each other. And I might also have a few questions. And then we will also have just a short time for some audience Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We do have a hard ending at 8 o'clock. Because Tomás is going to have to jump off, but hopefully everything should come together. And yeah, we'll drop those links, but you can find the poets' books for sale on our bookshop page. I think you'll need to actually email and order with us for Reyna and Roberto's books, because I'll need to go through their publishers. But yeah, and then I thank you for listening for all that, and I will pass it on to our guests. I'm so excited. Take it away.
How you doing, everybody? Thanks for being here. Thank you to Angela and Ananda for setting it all up. I'm going to read a poem from my collection, Elegies. And this poem is called Elegy for All of It. Elegy for All of It. Sometimes, if I catch a white person staring at me as I hop in my car, I imagine them calculating whether or not I need reparations. I mean, they don't know I'm Afro-Latino. To white racists, black is black, which is true, but not in the way they think it's true. I was almost done eating my beef and broccoli when a white woman strolled into Chow's Walk and ordered a pint of plain white rice, please. Just white rice. I heard the owner ask, "Nothing else?" She repeated, "Just plain white rice, please." A short standoff ensued. Very short. Should I take your money or spit in your face? Short. The proprietor shouted the order to the kitchen. Shortly, the white rice and the money changed hands. My daughter, Lily, brought home a Black History Month project. I love baseball, so she chose Jackie Robinson. She read me the short story she was given about Jackie Robinson's life. Jackie Robinson was the first Black man to play in the major leagues. In order to play in the majors, Jackie had to control his anger. Pause. I flip ahead. I flip back to the cover. I flip through the assignment instructions, but there is no explanation as to why Jackie Robinson had to control his anger. No racist white ball players, no racist white fans in the stadium, no segregation in baseball, no racism. Institutions will erase racism from history, but be racist every single day. The Monday after Tamir Rice's murder, many white people I knew went on with their lives. Their social media feeds a mix of ironic humor and smiling faces and anything but Black Lives Mattering. I hit like on some of them, waited a few minutes, and hit unlike and let that hang in the air. Hopefully, they struggled with what that meant. The day we learned of Alton Sterling's murder, I ate a long lunch with a white friend, maybe 2 hours, and they never brought it up. The next day, Philando Castile was murdered, and they never brought it up. It went on like this for a while. I counted. Dear reader, I've heard white people say, I don't know, I didn't want to get too heavy. Laugh out loud. At these times, I think of insert white celebrity getting rich off Black culture. Patron saint of white silence. Dear white reader, we're being slaughtered catch as catch can. By all means, go back to your daily dose of internet video. We watch men and women level buildings. Superheroes, we call them. Watch them explode planets and kill millions. We watch for entertainment. It tastes good to us. Walking around Times Square one day, a Buddhist grabbed my wrist and tied a bracelet to it. He offered me countless blessings. He said the bracelet would protect me, and he gave me a little rolled piece of parchment for good fortune. I asked, what's the catch? You see, we're building a temple, he replied, and we'd like a donation of $10 or $20. I honestly had no cash on me. I apologized. He quickly untied the bracelet, took back his parchment, and left. That's capitalism. In poem for Yusef Hawkins, Felipe Luciano writes, when Black people march back to the sea, they're taking America with them. And no one will be able to stop them. Amen. In the drawing, The Execution of French Soldiers, Haitian revolutionaries are hanging the titular soldiers well into the background for miles and even up into the mountains. The drawing is black and white, but the sky was certainly Caribbean blue, and the sun had to be cooking that wool and silk uniform. Sweat and rope burning the neck flesh. If you look closely, you can see a kind of frenzy on the Haitians' faces. What a spectacular way to end your oppression. To change places with the lash master who just the week before, probably, beat the blood from your skin. Spectacular. Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Walter Scott, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Stephen Clark, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Amadou Diallo, Kenneth Chamberlain, Jonathan Ferrell, John Crawford III, Jordan Edwards, Botnam Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Eleanor Bumpers, Alberta Spruill, Sandra Bland, Tony McDade, Ayanna Stanley, Jones, Katherine Johnston, Deborah Danner, Khalif Browder, Trayvon Martin, Edmund Perry, Jose Garcia, Henry Dumas, Michael Stewart, Randolph Evans, Jordan Davis, Rayshard Brooks, Yusef Hawkins, Oscar Grant, Freddie Gray, Sam DuBose, Terrence Crutcher, Jamar Clark, Jeremy McDowell, William Chapman II, Eric Harris, Akai Gurley, Carlos Ingram Lopez, Sean Monterosa, Jose Soto, Israel Hernandez Lac, Elijah McClain, Magdiel Sanchez, Daniel Harris. Every year of every decade, there is a list. Remember that. And I'll read one more, and it's called Zuihitsu for the Day's Ashes. The sun is honey drizzled atop my lawn, my shed, and this weapon I hold in my hands. Little girls really do sing and dance all day, and after, the silence is overwhelming. A dog is happiest with a toy in its teeth, and if you throw it, good Lord. Lying here on the sofa, under a blanket, it's easy to forget the world is ending. When I'm old, I hope I don't get Alzheimer's. It's like being a photograph in your loved one's hands, and they keep staring at it, and you can't say anything back to them. Birds singing in the trees remind me how discontented I am, and the clouds in the sky, how small. I've been listening to the wind lately. I know it speaks to trees and small animals, but not to me. Grief is an excellent companion. It never says no to a drink or to a second or third. Best not to let it in every night, maybe just Saturday. I keep telling people I love them. I mean, I do. Maybe I'm afraid to. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Again, the book is Elegies through Flower Song Press. And now, la profe, Doctora Reyna León. Give it up.
And giving some love back to Roberto. That was an amazing reading. So I'm going to share screen with you all and show you some collages while I read. And hopefully that works. So here we go on mothering. We deserve abundance, y'all, until it's freely given. Snatch happiness. It's a quotation that comes from Venus Thrash in Every Moment. And so I'm actually going to read one of Venus's poems. This piece is drawing based on one of her bio photos. She transitioned to be an ancestor this summer, and I was a part of her Cave Canem community. So, going too fast. Snatching happiness, she wrote, and I'll sing a little bit with my husky voice. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. And the world can't take it, the world can't take it away. She wrote, lately I've been dreaming of death. Not some generic somber homegoing of one I knew in passing, mourning in the pews, removed and detached, but my own, impending, looming behind my pillow. Lately, I've grown more grateful. Every morning I open my eyes. I snatch whatever happiness I can from this hellacious life. I yank it right out of the infinite sky, like high-fiving God and pulling my hand away at the last second, like catching a falling star. And this poem, the painting there is of my son. The only color. Verde, 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 every color is verde. And I think on Federico Garcia Lorca, how I read this poem to him, days old, his whole body less than 6 pounds on my chest. And now he stands a wild octopus boy on a chair reaching for the markers. Verde, verde, he says, though the uncapped tool streams orange. His father says, he just knows what the best color is. I know I have to say naranja or anaranjado. He has to know his colors and go into a diatribe about school, not being behind. It is not about school. He is my son. And so the box awaits, a check mark of abuses woven into his identity. Will he ever be able to just be the creative child who is glorified for how his mind stretches divergent? My husband does not know that the box can be a casket, and each day we must fight for it not to be. Ahmad ran on a street lined with green leaves. Lorca wrote a poem. They shot him too. So bright, I just want my son to know his colors and live. And these last two poems, Eden had 4 rivers. After the birth and the afterbirth, the midwife lifts the placenta to show how from the womb we are all elemental. Beloved, suckered from a veiny tree. The assigned boy child was easy. Querido, querida, queridas, we took the organ of our lineage, a treasured gift of our waters and roots, iced and carried in a bloody plastic bag of budding, and contributed its last work to Fig. After the assigned girl child, wherever you go from around to within, we had to steal what they wanted to study. Mother body made a possible pathology. We brought a cooler and guarded it. Peaches rise now in a garden that feeds other mouths. There is a metaphor there. Let us just say medicalized racism saw every part of me and she, my daughter, as tainted. This, the initiation into Black gendered identity. Eden was surrounded by rivers and within it, walking ancestor. Los ancestros que todavía respiran están respirando sus canciones. Trees rise and the roots talk to one another. All creatures listened and knew one language. They moved like water. We see you adapting to one another, and in the water we be you that fed the water and trees and all living things. You be we. There was wisdom and memory passed on. Areto ta atare, remembered in stone on a metal tray. Strength current wherever there is water and earth. A deliverer holds up a blood tree. Roots the bridge between death and life and dream. Fleshy Eden. Listen to the voices still whispering there before the clot. Springtime and mule and eyelash flutter. Our and your own. Yes. And this last poem. Sakay. Child, I am old and have learned so many rules of what and how to taste, how manufactured foam on a lightly poached egg refines the tongue, while sea sputum twists it to poison. They say, and though I know gold clogs the intestines to stillness and cements there even in tiny flecks, their glitter going down is supposed to be like capturing the sun. A culinary delicacy, better than the day star's momentary grace on studded palate, unfolded to sky as if to devour light. Child, what would you teach me about gluttony? Tell me about the second meal so soon after the grit of the sandbox and just before the desert of your own spit as you suck your fingers. Querida, describe how death ribbons in your mouth and offers you a new pucker and a distinct scrunch to your face. Is this how your first wrinkle of consternation forms? And when I die, will the leaves I eat taste like these I disparage now, thinking them less fine on a menu you sample of garden? And I'm gonna stop screaming. Welcome to my home, y'all. Welcome to my family. And the next poet is Ananda Lima.
Thank you so much, Reyna. That was amazing. So beautiful. You know, the art, the visual art and the baby and the poems was just really amazing. And Roberto too. That was such a beautiful reading. I love that book. You know I do. I should just tell everybody else that I love that book. Thank you all. This is such an honor to read with you all. Let me start my timer. I forgot. So I'll read a few poems. And I will read a few that I was in between, like reading things that might be new to the other readers or things that sort of, I don't know, are homages to them somehow. I think I'll go with the latter. So Reyna was so generous for publishing some of my poems in the Fantastic Acentos review. So I'll read some of those. And I'll start with this one called Mother Tongue. And it plays with, how the dates in America are backwards. You got the month from the middle and put in the front. So it plays with that. And I wrote it the day that Trump was elected, which was November 9th, which is kind of like 9/11. Okay. So Mother Tongue. To deal with American dates, my strategy was to tell myself to do the opposite of what I thought I should do. This used to work, but now I no longer remember what I first felt so strongly about. So I am caught not knowing for certain the day I was born, switching my birthday from June to August, one of 2 months when the temperature is right, the other one being July, when I was once certain my mother was born. But now I am more sure of its other date, though I still don't know if the proper way to say it is July 4th or the 4th of July. My son was born in September 2011, and when the well-visit nurses quizzed me, confirming our identity by declaration of his birth date, I always have to stop myself from saying 9/11. My son does not in any other way remind me of 9/11. That day, sad but seen from afar on a screen, didn't belong to us then. The two of us, then one, not in America, not a person yet, neither for those who count as a person not born here, nor for those who count as a person, something not born. But now we can't escape its imprint, the proximity of those digits, even if out of order or in the correct order, I can't tell anymore. My son doesn't know yet how dates work. He barely understands the days of the week. I try to make him say them in Portuguese like I do, with all the words I can still remember, hoping for gains by attrition. But today, because I didn't know what to say, but still wanted him to understand me, because I was afraid for him speaking anything other than the unofficial, official language of this land, which is not my land, despite the claim it makes in song. I gave in and spoke to him in my broken version of his language. All right. All right, thank you, Reyna, for publishing that poem. That was really lovely. And you mentioned also in your poem teaching Spanish, and this is me teaching Portuguese. All right, I'll read one now that I wrote while I was rooming with Reyna, the community of writers. We were the week sharing an apartment together, which was really lovely. It was like a highlight. And this one is called 7 American Sentences, and I wrote it at an anniversary, near an anniversary of Sandra Bland. It's written in American sentences, which is basically just an Americanized haiku, which I find interesting. And it's after Ashbery's poem, 37 Haiku, but mine are just 7. 7 American sentences. In the beginning were people who lived here before. In the beginning of spring, spirits hovering over the waters. The vault, evening, morning, sky, the second, day after a shooting. Body, let it serve as a sign to mark times and days and years. Correction, George Washington's teeth were never made of wood. In the beginning of the end, missing signal for lane change. And on the seventh day, same thing again, only some rested. All right, good. So now I'm going to read a poem that I used to read a bunch before, and I'm reading a lot again now because I think it really sums up a lot. It has in it a lot of the themes of the collection, and I think I didn't. There you go. And it's called Line. Line. I inherited from my mother the knobbly joints and square ends of my fingers. From my father, I got the habit of biting my nails. Their shortness, the frayed missing skin, had never bothered me. But now I have a son, and he has begun to bite too. In America, I learned that I can snap a rubber band against my wrist each time my hand reaches up toward the mouth. On the back of my hand, the rubber band disappears into the color of my skin, but when I turn and face the inner side, it is a clear division of my body. The first time I saw a cotton tree, I found it beautiful. The cotton so white in its brown cradle, so soft against the square tips of my fingers. I squeezed the dead flower around it and felt joy from hearing it crackle. As children, we had cups full of sugar cane. We chewed on it and spit out the bagasse. Toothless men ran the knobbly stalks through a machine. The juice trickled into our glasses, and the flat piece that came out on the other side was put through it again until everything was gone. The dry split stalk thrown into a pile, limp like blonde hair. When I first arrived in America, I didn't understand what people meant when they said with an American accent that they were Irish or Italian or French. Now that I understand, I asked my mother for a family tree. She said she had never thought of such things, and she wouldn't know much past her grandmother's first name. So what I have is my memory of the faces of my relatives and my own. When I first arrived in America, all I could see was beauty. The snow, fine like sugar, white like cotton. But now the beauty, the land, the tired metaphors just make me sad. Before I left for America, I saw an individual in the mirror. But today I see my father, my mother, my brothers, my son. And a man missing skin from tears on his back, and the man who did it. When I looked this morning, I tugged on my rubber band so hard that it broke. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'm just going to say, I was also going to read some Roberto poems, things that connect us, but I messed up the timing. So Roberto, I also send you lots of love, and Tomás as well. And now Tomás Morín.
Thank you, Duende District, for having us. Reina, Roberto, Ananda, just such beautiful work. It's a real honor. Machete. When they stare, I know it is my skin they fear. This face, this hair, so unlike theirs. I meet their eyes and make them sway like fields of cane. When they stiffen, I sharpen the edge of my smile and watch them fall. I love them in my cake, how they sink in the dark coffee where they give up the sweetness they make me take, one slice at a time. Whiteface. We drove 5 miles under the speed limit. We kept the nose of our cars out of crosswalks. We signaled early. In the trunk, the spare was full of air. We made sure we had gas. Running out of gas left a lot to chance. Don't get stranded, our mothers had always said, in the wrong neighborhood, or on the highway, or alone, or with our friends. Keep both hands on the wheel. Is your registration up to date? Did you replace the bald tire? It wobbles. You know who wobbles? Drunks. We nod and nod. Nodding doesn't comfort our mothers, not like in the 70s and 80s. We were still children then. We hadn't learned to lie yet, at least not well. Breaking curfew was still in the future. Our mothers wanted us safe. They still believed this was possible back then. They nod and we nod. Our two heads swing back and forth, like a Newton's cradle. You know the toy, if not the name. It often sits on the desk of people who give orders. 5 suspended spheres are lined up. They are made of steel. Lift one and they will click and clack forever. You can see it now, can't you? This toy that proves momentum and energy are not lost. Sometimes only 2 spheres are used. But our heads are not made of steel. They are made of stardust. Stardust is surprisingly delicate. It is delicate like a trapeze. Our heads swing high in the dark. Our country is a circus tent. The trapeze has always been the last act of the night. This is why we nod and nod, because we are at the end of something. From down below, when the light catches our heads, they shine. They shine like disco balls. They shine like something sharp, like a thing that could light your way, that could make your heart race, that could free you. We saw a trapeze act on TV once. 2 people passed a ball to each other. It was shaped like the earth, if the earth were made of glitter. We wanted a ball like that, so we collected pounds and pounds of empty cans to sell. All summer, Coke, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Big Red, Crush, Miller Lite, and Coors too. Not unlike the ones on the shoulder now, where we have been pulled over because of a phone call, because a dog crossed the road, because a diaper needed to be changed, because the route to the dentist was under construction. We are big, we are small, our clothes are plain, we are wearing pants, we are wearing a dress, a shirt with sleeves, a shirt with no sleeves. The blit leaves its jacket on the road. The speedometer squats at 0. Red and blue lights dance in the mirror. What if next time we wore a doctor's coat, hung a stethoscope around our necks? What if next time we wore our mother's camouflage? We could be the color of sand and rocks. What if next time we wore a black suit and shiny black shoes, a white priest collar around our throats? When you say, "Show me your hands, get on the ground," we could say, "Hail Mary, full of grace." What if next time we paint our faces white, like a happy clown? Say we were on our way to wave at kids with our machetes from the edge of the woods, near a playground, near a house, near a school. This person has the right to remain breathing. Anything they say can and will be used against them in a court of law. If they cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for them. Do you understand the rights I have just read to you? With these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to us? That poem came out of that I feel like it was a few summers ago where it seemed like every week on the news there was a new report of somebody dressed as a clown, like menacing people, like on the edge of apartment complexes, parks. And I remember telling a friend, I would bet you money that not a single one of these clown people gets arrested, much less gets shot. And I never saw a report that any of them did. This last poem I'm going to read, it takes place in the universe of the Machete movie franchise series. At the end of the second movie, there is a teaser trailer for the direction that the third movie will take, which will be in space, which is a spoof on one of the James Bond movies. And that was probably like 10, 12 years ago. And every year, at least one day, I go down a rabbit hole looking for whispers of the movie being made, and nothing so far. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write into that universe and try to imagine like a scene from that movie. I was about 6 lines into this poem before I realized it was Jessica Alba's character, Sartana Rivera, who's speaking in the poem. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing that now. So just imagine that my hair is, long, and I have better eyebrows. And it's Jessica Alba who's reading this. Sartana and Machete in Outer Space, for Jessica Alba and Danny Trejo. There's been so much death, so much killing. From space, the wall along the Rio Grande isn't even a shadow of a shadow. The rockets of his jetpack are cold now. His mama named him Isador Cortés. Mexico renamed him Machete, aka Navajas, aka Cuchillo. Isadoros is Greek for gift from Isis, the goddess who took the shape of a scorpion and healed the sick and raised the dead. How can I explain the man behind the legend? Not everything people say is true. For one, he never joined ICE. He was no good at following orders anyway. And yet, on Sunday mornings, while I slept, he'd stalk the neighborhood for pan dulce and barbacoa for tacos. Not too oily, not too dry. To the ladies, my papi is puro catnip, a saber-toothed bone, a walking Juan the Conqueror route. Even the Selena statue whistled at him when we drove to Corpus so I could show him how to fish. When he was born, God said, "You will be a Mexican, not a Mexicant." He finishes rewiring the navigation system of a nuke he's sitting on and winks at me. Outer space is cold, colder even than the day he thought I was killed. We didn't know the villain of the month had messed around with clones. So while I was held captive on the space station, my poor Machete put my double in the ground. Agent Sartana Rivera, while 21 guns saluted her. What did my man find when he followed the bad guy into space? Hundreds of kidnapped immigrants forced to build a space station at gunpoint. 240,000 miles above the Earth, it's the same old shit as down there. Can you believe Cortés means polite? I lost count of how many bad guys he's killed. He doesn't even know. When I asked him once, he said, "Machete don't count." And then laughed so hard, I thought the sombrero of the woman tattooed on his chest was going to fall off. Life hasn't been all bad. He did find me here in space. You could say our love is galactic now. He's only a cucuy to the pendejos who see gardeners, busboys, and maids when they look at us. What I see is not God's scorpion or a hurricane of blades, but the man I love riding a nuclear missile like a Harley into the mouth of a black hole. He's like a chromed out star that forgot how to fall. I know when my papi lights up the sky in a few minutes, people are going to talk and say all the babies born today were born under a bad sign. The blister on my heart and this machete in my hand say different. Thank you.
That what you, each of you, just, I think I miss in-person poetry reading so much. I am so grateful for this format because I feel like I don't know if I could have gotten you all, together in DC or Albuquerque, but I miss that because I know that like this is the kind of reading where everybody's like, just snap, like like every single one of you. And y'all are amazing. Y'all are fire. Just grateful to be in your presence. You're such amazing poets. I know we could do like how do you we'll do some questions, but I'm just like basking in like your amazingness.
I love like your basking because it's exactly what I want to say about the poets. It's like, thank you so much.
How do we go forward? Okay, I know you guys are each supposed to have like at least like one question for each other, but I'll kick us off because it kind of always sucks to go first, right? What I also really love about having all of you here is, I mean, I think you all know my views on Latinidad, like how it's not a thing, but that we are not a monolith, that it's ridiculous. But I feel like this is such a beauty. Like when I think of us as like a people and a rainbow, you each represent just something magnificent and special individually, and you bring your own special culture with it, and so because I'm constantly like, let's break down that myth, and let's decolonize. I would love to know from each of you because we each have like, even if we're like Latinx, or whatever we want to call it, like we are so wildly different in beautiful ways. And there are things that unite us, but I would love to know from each of you the thing from your personal culture that it's important to you to bring to your own work. Just like, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, it could be a little thing. I just would love to hear.
I'll go first. I think for me, like a lot of it starts with, Octavio Paz has in that, I forget the title of the essay, but he talks about how Mexico is an orphan. I feel like Texas, Texas is an orphan of an orphan in a similar way that, New Mexico and California and Arizona are. And like I feel like that trauma, that trauma that cultural trauma, that historical trauma that gets passed on, it's all been so Texas washed, so US washed that, with Remember the Alamo and all that, all that crap that, it's pretty important in my work, the sense of, coming to terms with that loss.
Yeah. So for me, I'm from Brazil, which speaks Portuguese, so it has this difference already, right? And also another thing is that I immigrated as an adult, right? So it's a very different experience in terms of, I don't know, just seeing the world or whatever. But I feel like, when you move away, like when I moved away from Brazil, when I was in Brazil, I felt like people from Rio or from Bahia or from the South are very, very different from each other, which they are, right? And when I came here, I feel like they're so close to me in a way that I never felt when I lived there, right? Because it sort of compresses the whole region, right? And of course, we are very different. There's many different things going on. But the same thing happened with, Latin America, right? But even though it's so right, we are not monoliths and there's so much difference, even within a city, like sometimes people talk as if, there's no racism there, no capitalism and exploitation, and it all happens there too, We're not all in one side of the various equations. But at the same time, you start recognizing so much, that you go, oh, that's how it is for me too, and that's how it was growing up. That because of our histories, and it's so interesting to meet here, even though we sort of came from different regions, right? Meet here after several generations, and experiencing the meeting of that history and recognizing that there's something in common that is it's very powerful. But at the same time, we I think what you said is very right. There's that external pressure to say that we're all the same or something.
Roberto obviously wants to go last. I think that for me, what I bring into my writing and my being that stems from my cultures, many, is recognition of struggle, delight and joy, and a true respect and care for community. And I'll add on to that community is not just the people that we walk with now, but also being thoughtful around who our ancestors were, and reaching out, whether that is prayer, whether that is just acknowledgement of the past and calling on the names of people, calling them into the room because they live within us too. And also thinking about legacy and family. So when my husband and I, we used to have a place in Berkeley, small house, two bedroom, one bath. We were always in the same room, always in the same room. And then we bought this house. We moved across country to Philadelphia. We're always in the same room. Like we're all in the same room. And I think about like that is so much a part of my whole like growing up experience, being in the same room, whether in la cocina or like in the living room together, in la sala together, or like everyone's always in the same space because we love being with one another, even with the drama. And there's always drama, but that delight. And I think that has an impact on how I walk within the world and really nurturing community. But also how many voices come into my writing too. There are a lot of voices, even within one poem. Like the only color, for example, my son's in there, my husband's in there, my voice is in there. We're talking about the news, like we're talking about current events. There's so much happening, and sometimes it can feel like cacophony, and sometimes it is the symphony. It is the layered movement, and that symphony can also shift into requiem. I don't know where I'm going with these music metaphors, but that's where I am.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to give everybody a chance to go. I'm so used to like that. But it's funny because I hear everybody kind of saying we all have this baseline, right? That's this experience, and we're all the orphans of colonialism, right? In a sense, we're the leftover orphans of colonialism, and I think that what I try to bring into my work of that is how we turn it on its head, like the Spanish in Mexico, the Portuguese in Brazil, the Spanish in Puerto Rico, the Spanish in Dominican Republic, forget about it. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to say, de esa vaina que nosotros no vamos para allá, to saying like, no es posible, right? We're not speaking Isabella's Spanish, you know what I'm saying? So we're already making it our own. We're already departing from that European. And in my mind, like our culture is at its best when it's doing that, when it's moving away from and reinventing and making our own what we've had to live through with this experience, right? Whether we live through it from growing up in a Western country and seeing it through our parents, or whether we through migration we come from the place over. So for me, when I'm problematizing and trying to reinvent and just I guess, doing the opposite of whatever Western literature wants me to do, right? I feel great, you know. I feel like then our culture really is coming into what it is. Because I think if we all just kind of admit it, and not just us in the room, because we know, but I mean just in general, right? If all people claiming Latinx could just admit it and say, listen, we're still trying to make something that's outside of that colonial, post-colonial hangover framework. Like, you know, I don't know. Who knows what we could do, right? But yeah, thank you for that question too. By the way, that was awesome.
I love you guys, all of your answers. I mean, and this is everything, right? This is the guts of what we work with. You know, everything like Reyna talking about ancestors. I know right now in my life and work, as I turned 40 just last month, it's all about the ancestors. It's all about, you know, decentralizing Eurocentrism. You know, it's all about, and like, you know, just who are we? Who are the intersections of us, and how do we respect, you know, who came before, whose voices were eradicated or attempted to be eradicated? And we ourselves, you know, especially those of us who, you know, are Boricuas, we're like specifically colonized by the US. And, you know, and everything, Tomás, you said about Texas, this was like coming from New Mexico. Absolutely. And Ananda, like Brazil. I mean, that is like, there's so much there that we don't talk about. And it's all just like so much there that we don't talk about. And you all just, you get into that with your work, and you do it also like with power, but also joy. Like, I love, Reyna, that you talked about joy. And I mean, y'all are doing the work. All right. Do you guys have, I mean, I could keep talking and asking questions, but do you guys have questions to that you want to talk to each other about? I know, Ananda, you know, obviously you've worked with Reyna and Roberto, you know, and Tomás, you're coming from like my neck, you know, Southwest and Texas. I'd love to hear whatever you guys want to talk about.
I think I just wanted to thank everybody just looking at the time. And that was just so beautiful. And thank you also, Angela, for the questions and discussions. That was lovely. And I'm very grateful for everybody's work. I had a lot of questions, but I am sure we're going to meet up again, including you, Angela, you know, and we can keep talking. But this was really lovely.
We can keep it alive in the Twitter sphere.
Heck yeah. We got to keep these conversations going. All right. I just realized, yeah, we got like, Tomás has got to like jet. All right, then. I'll ask my, I was going to ask you guys a super technical question about how you went about formatting your manuscripts, but I'll just ask you like off of that.
Okay. Here.
I know you're right here. And I'm like, it's on my mind. Okay. Because I feel like we tend to like think of like, is there a narrative arc in our poetry collections? And I can see it in yours. And it's just a question I always have with other poets. Is like,
if you put that on Twitter, it will become one hell of a thread. So I would jump on in probably like 20, 30 minutes and answer, you know.
All right.
Look at me. I'm ready. I got the phone.
Oh. All right. I'll throw it on Twitter. I'll throw it on Twitter. I feel like there's always one rolling around, but I want to know from you guys. But okay, so just in the interest of time, so sort of like a follow-up to that question, which was weird because I came up with that question after this one, is so what one, I know you talked like, we talked a little bit like Octavia Paz, but like what one Latinx poet that is the poet who really influenced you and your work and that you think people need to be reading if we aren't?
Martina Espada.
You know, mine is obvious. I think it's Willie Perdomo, and Neruda. Just for me, is always somebody I would love to listen to in particular.
I'll drop one more. Sandra Maria Esteves, like gets sleeped on all the time. So you gotta be reading Sandra.
For me, it'd be Tino Villanueva, particular scene from the movie Giant. Yeah.
I can never think of any favorites, but I'm gonna say Machado de Assis, which is fiction, but it's just so mind blowing.
I've got a Brazilian poet. The first Brazilian poet, Ananda, that I ever read, and she was amazing. Adelia Prado. Like, so there you go.
Amazing. She's amazing. And she's well enough translated for those that can't read the Portuguese. So
yes.
Beautiful.
There's your assist. We need to be reading more Brazil. I will say, like, if we walk away with nothing, get Ananda's book, which, by the way, I think might have already sold out its first printing. Ananda, good job. But yeah, we need to be reading more Brazilian poets. I mean, that's so a thing. All right, we've got like 1 minute before Tomás has to go. What are your last? Such a powerful group. Is there anything like a last thought that you guys want to talk about, or like anybody else you think we should be reading, or a book? You could do the book that you're reading that you are loving right now. I love that question.
I say, check out Get Fresh Books, because Roberto is doing an amazing job, and it's just amazing people there, and you should all check it out.
Second that all the time, and we do events with Get Fresh, so absolutely. Sorry, Rita, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to recommend this book called Civilizations. It's a novel by a French novelist called Laurent Binet. And in the book, he reimagines Christopher Columbus's journey. What if Christopher Columbus would have died on the island? And what if I forget his name. I apologize. I have it here. I can't remember. What if he Atahualpa? Sorry, Atahualpa. What if Atahualpa left the Americas and went to Europe, as opposed to Europeans coming to the Americas? So it's really a wonderful rewriting of history that's beautiful.
Wow.
I'm saying Undrowned by Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs. Fantastic book. Fantastic. Series of essays. Wonderful.
You're the Dog by Deborah Paredes.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight and reading your just stunning poetry and everything you do. I know, especially Tomás and Roberto and Reyna, you do so much mentoring and help, holding up. And Ananda, you're like amazing. My friend Johanka, she's like, Ananda's awesome. I'm just so blessed to have you all in this space.
She's amazing. I love her stuff.
She's like, fiction writer Johanka Delgado is amazing, up and coming. She's got 2 stories in the Best American Sci-Fi this year. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Just thank you, and thank you to the Word.
Thank you all. This was such an incredible. I'm swimming in the space still, and I'm really excited to hear that the space is going to continue online. So more to come. Thank you everybody for being here with us tonight. What an incredible conversation, and thank you everyone who joined us or is watching this video. And thank you for kind of being the closeout of our Margins Bookstores Month celebrations. Everybody watching, please support your Margins Bookstores. They are centers of our communities, including Duende District Books. Use the links in the chat to support the authors and our bookstore today. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.